Welcome to the Inspiring Heights podcast. I'm your host, Vanessa Kaiser, and I am so excited to be here with you today. Inspiring Heights exists to walk alongside you as we learn to create healthy rhythms, flourish in our faith, and be inspired where our feet are. We're honored that you're with us today. We can't wait. Let's get started.
I think that we are saying this a lot about a lot of things right now, but can you all believe that it is almost Thanksgiving? Oh, this year has gone so fast. It is wild. It's wild. I was having a conversation with my mom the other day about Thanksgiving, and she made a comment that she has said to me many times before, and that was, making Thanksgiving is easy. It's easy. Now, I've had the pleasure of hosting Thanksgiving meals twice in my life. And both times were lovely and enjoyable experiences. We had no raw turkey at dinner time, no burnt buns, no over smashed potatoes. And honestly, nothing about the meal prep itself was earth-shattering. However, I would not take it as far as to say that it was easy. Sorry, Mom. You and I, we disagree on this one. The thing about Thanksgiving dinner that gets to be overwhelming is the volume. Where I'm from, a traditional Thanksgiving meal consists of turkey and maybe ham, potatoes, green bean casserole, pretzel salad, buns, stuffing, cranberries of some kind, sweet potato or yam something, a veggie platter, and pies, probably at least 2 to 4 kinds. Don't forget the drinks and the table setting and your grandma's beautiful tablecloth that you save for occasions just like this. Whew, that is a lot to get on the table by 2 o'clock. Whether you've hosted Thanksgiving a million times or this year's going to be your first, I think we can all learn something about how other people plan and prepare for big events like a Thanksgiving Day dinner. So today's podcast episode is all about the nitty-gritty, super practical preparations for a Thanksgiving Day meal. One of the first things I did when I was invited to host Thanksgiving the first time was I set my mind to looking for some extravagant recipes. We've all probably baked like potatoes, green beans, and some kind of bread at some point in our life. But if you're anything like me, Thanksgiving feels different. So I was off to find the best recipes that I thought would wow my guests. It can be really overwhelming, though, to type in mashed potatoes in Pinterest and try to choose. So when you're scrolling and searching for just the right thing, there's a couple of questions to keep in the back of your mind. Can I prepare this the night before? How much oven time does this require? And is this something that the people I'm feeding will like? Here's the thing with this specific question. I can sometimes get carried away with new recipes. We've talked about this before where I am not really afraid to try new things, even when people are coming over. But it's just good to consider if the people coming dislike something like, say, jalapenos, and I decide to put a spin on 3 main dishes to jalapeno popper spin-offs, it might be disappointing for my guests, and by extension me, because they probably won't eat it. No matter what method that you use to look for recipes, I would recommend bookmarking, pinning, or putting a sticky note on each recipe that sounds like a contender. And then once you get all done, you can go through and decide which one is the winner. See, order matters a lot in planning a big meal like this. We might go into the recipe search envisioning that we're going to make a potato casserole in the oven. However, as we go and we find that the yams and the green beans and the corn and the pies and the bread all need done in the oven, we go, oh yeah, there's not going to be room for our potato casserole in there. So we scroll back through our 10 potato recipes that we pinned and we find the one for mashed potatoes on the stovetop, and bada bing, we got ourselves a winner. For this meal prep, each decision really does kind of impact the next one. One more quick tip I would give you for the search portion of the recipes. If you are someone who is literally just going to get bogged down, like this is going to take you hours and hours and you're spinning and you're not going to enjoy it at all, it can be really helpful to just choose a target to stay on track. So that could look like setting a timer for 15 minutes, looking through the recipes you're going to look through, get in, get out, and make a decision and be done. Or you could try looking for 3 versions of each recipe that you need and then choosing the one that you like from there. We all know what works for us and whether this part of the process is going to be enjoyable or totally overwhelming. And it is okay to just pivot this process to whatever fits and works best for you. After you have your recipe secure, then it's time to get the ingredients list together. I love to do this on paper and pen, but you can totally use your phone or your computer, whatever works best for you. So I go into each recipe and I write down all the ingredients and all the quantities needed. Just a quick little bit of advice here. When you're looking at your recipes, make sure that you have accounted for how many times you need to make that recipe. So what I mean by that is if the recipe serves 6 and you are serving 18, make sure you multiply the ingredients by 3 to ensure that you have enough to make for all 18 people. And I don't skip anything here. Butter, olive oil, garlic, salt, eggs, the things I have on hand can be really tempting to just skip over because I think I have it. But what I don't want to do is think that I have 4 boxes of butter in the freezer when actually I used the last one last week, and I'm going to find that out when I'm in the middle of trying to brine my turkey. So I write it all down and then take inventory. And with this ingredients list, there are a couple different methods that we can try. One is to write down all the ingredients by recipe. The green bean casserole needs this, the cranberry sauce needs that, etc., etc. By doing that, when you're meal prepping, you can pull ingredients out that are specific to that recipe based on this list. Or perhaps it could be more helpful to sort the ingredients list so that when you go grocery shopping, you're ready to shop category by category. So you sort your grocery list by things like dairy, vegetables, condiments, fruit, bread, canned items. And then when you go to the grocery store, it's all laid out and ready for you to shop aisle by aisle. Once our lists are complete, it's time to inventory the kitchen. And I said it right before, but I'm going to say it again at least one more time. It is tempting to skip this step to confirm the things that we think we already have on hand. My encouragement to you is simply just confirm it. Just confirm it. I look at it this way. I'm already opening the pantry, so I might as well just look up and make sure that I have enough garlic powder for Thanksgiving dinner. Another thing worth considering is what will we be cooking between the time we're doing inventory and the time that we are prepping for Thanksgiving meal. We may have 2 dozen eggs in the fridge right now, but if I'm planning to make an egg bake with 12 of those between now and the time I'm prepping for Thanksgiving, I need to note that I actually only have 1 dozen eggs free to use. Also, when we go through inventory, it can be really helpful to have a quick mechanism of I have this, I don't have this as you're working on your list. So using a highlighter or a symbol next to each item on your list can help you move through your inventory before you sit down to make the actual grocery list. Once inventory is done, grocery list is next. One quick thing to consider before finalizing your grocery list, so you only have to do this once, is what will you need to feed people before and after Thanksgiving? Are they coming for the weekend? Will they be here for breakfast on Thanksgiving Day morning? Don't forget the items that you need to feed your humans on either side of the big meal. The actual grocery list itself, it's fairly simple. You already have your inventory and you know what you need. So once you have your master list, we can plan the shopping trip. You guys know my love for the Lazy Genius Kitchen with Kendra Adachi. I can literally hear her voice saying, when you're planning your shopping trip, you have to decide what matters the most. Does finding the best deal on food, having to only stop at one store, being able to buy all organic? It can't all matter most. So deciding before you hit the grocery store can save you some frustration and decision paralysis once you're there. We will call that planning phase 1. Deep breaths. And now it's time for planning phase 2, the meal itself. This goes back to the whole sheer volume of the meal thing. Unless you have multiple ovens in your house, it is incredibly challenging to make all of the food on Thanksgiving Day alone. And honestly, not only is space a concern, but also don't be fooled by my mama's encouraging words that the meal is easy. Y'all, it takes some work, especially if you are making things from scratch. So, I would contend to you that making a game plan about what can be done the day before, or in some instances, even several days before, will save a lot of stress on the big day. I'll give you some examples to consider. Make your bread ahead of time, peeling and dicing potatoes and storing them in water overnight. Peeling the yams, assembling the green bean casserole so that it's ready to go in the oven. Making the pies, mixing up the seasoning for the turkey. What you can do in advance is really dependent upon your recipes. Spend some time studying and arranging a cooking schedule to optimize your time and your oven space. And before I forget, girl, set a timer to get your turkey out of the freezer. I had no idea how long these things take to thaw. It's like forever. And there are lots of opinions about what is safe and what's not. So you Google it, you do what feels safe, but don't wait until the morning of, unless that's part of the plan. And then great, you have that worked into your schedule, and that's fantastic. One more thing to plan for is breakfast and snacks for the day of Thanksgiving. It's all pretty dependent upon when you eat your meal, but most of us don't eat Thanksgiving for breakfast. So you do you, but my humble advice is to keep it simple. Cereal, donuts, protein bars, pre-blended smoothies, microwave oatmeal, anything to keep you from having to do anything more than open, eat, and throw away. There's already so much to do on that day. A simple breakfast will serve you very well. And after that, you're basically home free. All that's left is the actual cooking part. Here's a few practical tips for the day of. Take or leave whatever is helpful for you. Give people jobs. When people are around, they really do want to help, right? And if you can be decisive and communicative about what they can do to help you, it will really make them feel like they're a part of the special day. It will help you get done what you need done, and it is a win-win-win. Create a playlist. I do much better, especially when I'm stressed, if I can bring some music on. It just is something that really soothes my soul. Wear supportive shoes. Be on your feet all day, and that can cause our backs to ache, right? So supportive shoes can help keep us going. Caffeinate. Coffee is always a good idea. And it's really interesting because I'm like a pretty avid coffee drinker, but sometimes on days like this when you get busy and you're like moving around and you're cooking in the kitchen, I'm not as mindful of my coffee, and so then I might let it sit there for a very long time. My head will eventually let me know that I have not had enough coffee yet. And then try not to multitask outside of the kitchen. This is really not a day for like laundry or last minute cleaning up before our guests arrive. Just being in the kitchen is a lot this day. So being able to focus there and not having to worry about other things can help make for a less stressful day. Don't forget, this day is a day of thankfulness. The food, it's a huge part of the Thanksgiving Day holiday, yes. But the most important part is the family and the friends that we share it with. And the great news is, if the turkey is burnt to a crisp, the potatoes get seasoned with sugar instead of salt, or you forget to put yeast in the buns, it will be something to laugh about for years to come. Silver lining. Thank you so much for joining us today, friends. I hope you have a very happy Thanksgiving. I want to take just a second to tell you what's been inspiring me this week. I can sometimes get really in my head about schedule commitments and wanting to be everywhere and do everything and be where my feet are and rest well. And it can get hard to sort through that sometimes. The other day I was chatting with a friend of mine who also adores Christmas, and she told me that her kiddos love Christmas too, and that they're really trying to be intentional this year. And that comment was made in the context of schedules. And just the simplest statement, because that's literally what she said, we're trying to be intentional this year, was a kind reminder to me that I am not alone in my desire for good rhythms and intentional living. And I'm also not alone in the struggle that sometimes is. We're all walking through stuff that we're trying to figure out or grow in, be better at, pivot away from. And just letting each other know that we aren't alone can be of huge encouragement. All right, friends, take a second and consider what's been inspiring you this week.
Friends, thank you so much for being here today. It means the world to us. Hey, you can check us out on Facebook or Instagram at Inspiring Heights. If you haven't already, subscribe to the podcast so that you never miss an episode. And if you're so inclined, go ahead and leave us a review. This helps for new listeners who haven't heard the podcast to kind of get a feel for what the show is like before they even hit play. If you have friends who aren't yet subscribers, share this with them if this is something you think that would be helpful and encouraging to them. Okay, friends, until next time, take a deep breath and be inspired where your feet are. Bye for now.